I finally have all the Game Boy games that have extra features. Okay, so I still need a lot of games, but I recently picked up a few more, including a sort of old school amiibo type of peripheral for the Game Boy. Let's start off first with this game. Yes, it's a Mary-Kate and Ashley Pocket Planner. This cartridge counts as a special cartridge due to its real-time clock mechanic, like in games like Pokemon. I spoke about the different types of cartridges and the chips inside of them in part 1 of this video series. That'll be somewhere on the screen right here. Now let's talk about the game. First things first, let's put our name here. Okay, a middle name. We'll skip middle name for now. We'll skip last name. My address? What? City? Zip code? What the? Name of for what? Okay, it looks like we're done with the setup of the game. Now obviously the questions it asked were because this is a planner and it's like a PDA where people will have their information. And the game does allow you to have a pin in case someone finds your game and tries to get into your game. On the first screen that you see in the game, it is your planner and it shows you your to-do list, emails, and events. Let's check our to-do list first. Let's see here. Oh, of course. Yeah, that's pretty important right there. Select takes you back to the main menu, where you can see the calendar, your friends, tools, options, and fun stuff. The tools include a stopwatch, phone dialer, which unfortunately doesn't actually dial any phone numbers, so you're out of luck if you wanted to use this as your mobile carrier. Then there's a clock and an About Me section, as well as a game manual in the Help section. In the Friends menu, at the moment, we just have the twins on my friends list. But finally, in the Fun Stuff menu, you can actually play some mini games here. There's 4 games here, including a sort of a catching game, a puzzle slider, a matching game, and a slot machine game. You know, gambling and a Mary-Kate and Ashley Game Boy Color game. Maybe I should put go to the casino on my to-do list. There's also a mode called Clue where you can interact with a dog, I'm guessing named Clue, and this is the origin of the Nintendogs actually. And also, if you want to brush up on your astrology, you can check out your sun sign here and see who you're compatible with. Also in the fun stuff section is a game called Ask Ashley. You basically ask Ashley a question and it treats it like a Magic 8 Ball. So you ask like, will this video hit 1 million views? Hey, she said it, not me. And finally, the last option here is called Crush Indicator. This time, it's Mary-Kate here giving you the answers. You can just point at something, and it'll scan you and tell you if it's a match. Let's see if these 2 Game Boys here are a match. A perfect match. All in all, this Pocket Planner has a lot of content. It has several tools like the stopwatch and the clock. Not impressive by today's standards, but in 2000, I'm sure someone found the game useful at the time. The real-time clock allowed it to be a pocket planner, and of course it might not be as flashy as the other games for this video, like the Rumble cartridge. I looked at 2 Rumble games last time, but this time I just have one, Perfect Dark. It's the same type of cartridge with the Rumble, and it sports the translucent look that a lot of these games have. Now the game was made by Rare, known for the Donkey Kong Country, and it does have a multiplayer and single player modes. And it also has a lot of extras as well. The campaign of the game surprised me. The graphics are impressive for a Game Boy Color. And gameplay wise, it does have a lot of variety. You're basically an agent, and after you're done with the initial training, you're put into a mission to take down a target. The game has an isometric view and you have a wide range of weapons. Enemies drop ammo or health, and you can press select to search their bodies or any of that stuff. You can run by double tapping the D-pad, and you shoot with A and reload with B. The start menu is used to select the weapons and check your inventory, as well as the objective of the mission. Now, if you're thinking this game was kind of boring or bland, let me just describe this first mission after the training mission, you know. This game takes place in 2022, last year or whatever, and the main character, Joanne, is dropped off in the jungle. Then you have to make your way up north, taking down guards and walking towards the boat. Then once you get on the boat, you gotta maneuver your way down the river while shooting guards and dodging them, also reloading your health and ammo. This is where the Game Boy cartridge starts shaking so much and your Game Boy starts going all crazy and your battery's gonna be drained. Then once you make it past the river, you gotta make it to this car, and then you gotta race, and these cars are trying to take you over burnout style, all the way you're trying to go over bridges and not fall off one of them. And then after the car part, you arrive at this warehouse, where you gotta go through, maneuver your way through, and then finally get to a helicopter that tries to take you down, and then you have to snipe a bunch of guards to enter this facility that's heavily guarded. Once in the facility, you gotta plant a bunch of C4 to destroy a bunch of oil tanks, but a spider robot tries to destroy you, and you have to take it down by using these lasers. Afterwards, you attach more C4 to more tanks, and finally, you get to the big boss.
Boss.
Not that one. The final boss in the mission. His name's Mink Hunter. After going down the river and racing cars and battling literal machines, what is the game gonna have you do in this final boss battle, you ask? Ninja stars. Yeah, you literally throw a ninja star, and then he falls into the lava. Throughout this whole mission, I had died countless times, and it took me a while to pass it. This was just one mission. The way the game splits the missions out into different parts, your game will save at certain points in the missions, and you actually forget about the rumble because it's so well implemented. It's basically used like rumble is used in modern games, like in modern shooters. There's no background music in the game, just the sound effects. It kind of gives the game an eerie vibe. Although the cutscenes do have voice acting.
The facility and eliminate the head of the forces.
Unlike other games. Overall, if you're looking for a Rumble game that you want to have fun with, this is one of the best ones. It even has the Rumble Pack feature for the 64, and you can use the Game Boy printer with it. The last game we'll take a look at today is for the Game Boy Advance. Bouken Yuki Pluster World Pluster on GP. Or something like that, I probably butchered it. This game uses what they call a Pluster World Multi-Plust-On system. Basically, there are 3 games that use this peripheral to scan figures for the games. The one I have happens to be a racing game. So that's right, Amiibos on the Game Boy Advance. The game features different modes, including time trials, an adventure mode, and of course a Grand Prix mode, along with multiplayer and a garage to customize your vehicles. Now, this is what the scanner was made for. Before any race, or even entering the garage to customize a car, you have to scan a figure. And to do that, you simply put the figure into the peripheral and rotate the knob, and then your Game Boy will read the figure and give you this little cutscene. And voila, you're ready to play the game. And the actual game and racing itself, it's nothing special. The controls aren't that great. I have found racing games on the GBA aren't the greatest to control. Now that being said, it's still a fun experience racing in the game. It plays kind of like a mix between Mario Kart on the Game Boy Advance and Simpsons Road Rage. And by the Simpsons Road Rage, I mean the adventure mode kind of reminds me of the mission mode from Simpsons Road Rage. It's not as easy to control as Mario Kart, especially when you turn, you kind of spin out. But you can jump with R, and the items are a bit creative. You have the typical projectiles, and you get 2 turbos in the start of the race. There is an item that stops time, and the other racers stop for a few seconds, allowing you to go past them. And there's also pit stops that stop the race, and you have to load a figure up, and you have to scan another figure. But since this was a Japanese-only game, the menus and everything in the game are in Japanese, so I'm at the will of Google Translate on my phone to get around the game. Which therefore was the reason why it was hard to find other figures online. The only other figures I found were listings on Japanese Mercari. I did find one blog online called Edge of Emulation, and basically this person is doing really important work. They're on a mission to preserve games on the Game Boy that have an extra peripheral or feature that isn't playable yet through emulation at the moment. They even have a book, which I'm definitely going to buy because it's right up my alley. Now, obviously, I have no affiliation to this person, they don't know who I am, or vice versa, and, come on, we're doing this again? But I was so amazed at this documentation and dedication to the preservation of pieces of gaming history that I just had to mention this website. They do go over this game, actually, and they go into more of the process of backing it up, if you will, going into detail of the code and information that the scanner sends to the Game Boy, and successfully being able to play it on an emulator, and getting past the error of scanning a figure into the game. Now, I'm not going to go into all that detail, but I'll have the link in the description if you want to check that out. The important note that I got from this blog is that the figures don't actually have any information. or any electronics or anything themselves. They simply push down buttons on the scanner that in turn send information to the Game Boy game, depending on what button combination was pushed down. So in theory, because of these pins on the bottom of this figure, the other figures will have different pins in a different orientation, thus pressing a different button combination that will show up as a different character in the game besides this green one that I have. My point in all of this is that instead of trying to buy all the different figures, I can physically trick the scanner into thinking I have another figure, and that's exactly what I did. Here's my attempt of what I ended up doing. Me with my smooth Donkey Kong brain though, thought if I press button down, scanner game works. So I opened it up and examined the scanner. I took measurements of the electronic pad, and I even traced it to get an exact dimension on the buttons, just to get a base and start with that. So first I figured if I can make a jig first, and then maybe have like removable pins that I can choose to push down different button combinations and see if that works. And it ended up working. Although this looks primitive, I was able to press buttons down with these little rods in specific locations, which I was trying to copy the pins on the green figure. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I did get a reading, but it was a different figure from the one I have. I did have to press down a little bit hard for the scanner to read it. This did prove that it technically worked, and now I have two figures, technically. I ended up making a true prototype shaped more like the figure that came with the game. The uniqueness of the game having to scan figures is one of the reasons I think it failed. Besides the fact that it wasn't that great, you simply can't play the game if you don't scan a figure. And if I was a kid, I probably would have lost this. As you play the game, you can upgrade and get points for your figure, so it was a cool concept. I would have liked it as a kid, and I would have had a favorite figure, and it would have been unique to this game. But if you lose it, then you're straight out of luck. The game wasn't going to work anymore. I'll eventually try to make more figures, but for now, I'm satisfied. And on a final note, of course I did design a figure that has all the pins, so I want to see what happens when you push down all the buttons on the scanner, just to see what happens. Let's try to put this on. Let's see. Okay, does it smell kind of smoky in here? Oh, here we go again. I gotta get out of here.